Hi, I'm Dr. Mike, and this is NFGeeks. This video is a Thursday theme video. It's a video for the NFGeeks Facebook forum, where I make a video based on a specific theme or a topic, and people then respond with their own videos based on the same theme and topic. And this week's Thursday theme video is going to be about the unfortunate death of Robin Williams. There's been a lot of videos and various tweets and things going around on social media about Robin Williams, and I think I think it'd be good for NFGeeks, for me, and for NFGeeks in general to sort of put in their 2 cents. So, really, I just want to sort of talk about Robin Williams and how Robin Williams affected me, and what my thoughts are about what happened this week. So. One thing that Generation X has that the other generations don't have, the generations younger, Generation Y and Millennials and whatever, is that Generation X literally grew up with Robin Williams right from the beginning of his career. Robin Williams' career begins in the childhood of Generation X and spans our entire lives through our teenage years, our 20s, our 30s, our 40s, it's something that, we grew up and watched him grow. We watched the entire curve of his career, of his path. So I think that makes it pretty special. And my first experience of Robin Williams is like all the other Generation Xers, which is on Happy Days. And I have a very vivid memory of seeing Robin Williams on Happy Days for the first time, like seeing that Happy Days episode, when it was first aired. I remember seeing it. I remember wanting to see it. Because we all watched Happy Days anyway, but I was always in tune to anything that was about space or aliens or spaceships or UFOs or whatever on TV, because this is not only before the internet, this is before cable, and things about sci-fi were sort of hard to come by sometimes on television. So I would, at 8 or 9 years old, check TV Guide way ahead of time to see what was coming on that week, to see if any kind of sci-fi movie was coming on or something that was, that I wanted to catch. I know the millennials are like, is TV Guide an app or something? Yeah, it's an app. Anyway, but I would check TV Guide and do that. And so I knew that there was going to be an alien on Happy Days, and there were commercials, and so I was all pumped up for it because I really liked Happy Days, and I wanted to see this. And I remember vividly thinking that episode was the funniest thing I had ever seen in my whole life up to that point at 9 years old. I could not stop laughing. Everything I thought was funny. The Shazbot, the Nano, the sitting on the, sitting with your ass up with your head in the chair. It's kids, we all did that for a long time. I don't know if Generation Xers have been pointing that out online, but we all sat like Mork, all the time. And granted, if you watch it now, it doesn't seem as funny. It seems cheesy and stupid, and it's obviously an episode after the shark episode, no question about that. But I just, at 9 years old in the late 70s, I thought this was just the funniest thing ever, and I was hooked on Robin Williams like everyone else for a long time. I watched Mork and Mindy and everything and thought he was the funniest thing. Two Robin Williams movies that are very important to me personally I want to talk about, and the first one is Good Will Hunting, and it's not because I actually like that movie, even though I'm from Massachusetts and everything. It doesn't mean I don't like the movie. It's a fine movie. It's good. The movie's importance to me is because other people associate me with Robin Williams in that movie, mostly because of the beard. When I had the mustache, I looked more like that version of Robin Williams, and people associated that. And he taught at community colleges at Bunker Hill Community College. I've been to Bunker Hill Community College. It's like something out of a post-apocalyptic movie. There's like parts that are underground, under cement and things. But I've been to that community college. But people associate that with me, and they often point out that I look like, or that when they, or if there's a celebrity that looks like me at a certain point, they think Robin Williams in Good Will Hunting looks like me, or I look like him. sometimes. And it was always meant as a compliment. That's why it's important to me. When somebody always made the Good Will Hunting Robin Williams connection with me, they always meant it as a high compliment to me that they were connecting me with Robin Williams. And so I always took it as a compliment. Yeah, I mean, granted, Ben Affleck and Matt Damon are actually my age and my peers, and I don't get. But I realized that, they were connecting Robin Williams, with me, and there was something heartfelt in that, and something touching in that, and it was very important. So that's always important to me. The second thing that's important to me is Dead Poets Society, and that movie had a really big impact on me. And maybe I don't talk about this enough in my life, in my real life, let alone on the YouTubes. And that it came at a very formative time. I went to a private high school. I didn't go to a boarding school, but I went to a private high school. So those of us who went to the private high school were kind of very interested in this movie, and seeing what it was about in terms of, because private school could be very rigid and very, draconian. So it had a very, very big impact on me, and I have to say it informed the type of teacher I became in a very, very big way. That his role of Mr. Keating in that movie very much influenced me as to what kind of messages do I want to be teaching in my classroom. And a lot of the message in my classrooms are very sort of parallel to Robin Williams' lessons, Mr. Keating's lessons in that movie. Very parallel. And it very, very much is archetypal of what type of teacher I'm trying to be and what type of classroom experience I'm trying to make. It very, very much is a model that I actually followed, including the Dead Poets Society itself. I've actually had various moments where I've formed sort of my own sort of Dead Poets Society, both in the real world and even NFGeeks is sort of a weird sort of Dead Poets Society for me. So in many ways, my life is an attempt to recreate what he was trying to do in that movie, and the goals that he had for himself and for his students, and what the whole point of teaching was. I very much live in, and I very much try to do now. And again, not just my entire teaching style and my entire teaching, model and goal is very much modeled on Dead Poets Society, more than any pedagogy or any kind of theory of education. It has more to do with Dead Poets Society than anything else. Anyone who's a student of mine who watches this knows this, sort of intuitively knows this. If they didn't put it together, they'll put two and two together, they'll agree that it is. But even NFGeeks, literally NFGeeks, the making of the videos, forums, several things that I do are also modeled after that movie, more than really anything else going on in my life. And so it had a very, very big impact on me, Now I'd like to talk about the issue of the suicide, and not so much the depression side, but the moral side. Because not that the depression side isn't important, but I think that, if anything, Robin Williams' death has brought out the importance of taking depression seriously, and what is depression and what depression can do, and why we have to get rid of the stigma of it and need to have this conversation about depression. And I think that's one sort of positive thing that's come out of this. And I agree with all of that. And so the reason why I'm not talking about it is because I don't know if I have anything specifically to add that's new to that. Now that that's sort of out there about depression, except to support it and say that I agree. What I want to talk about is sort of get a little philosophical and talk about the moral, ethical side of it in terms of suicide. Because there's one problem in the conversation I do see, and I want to hopefully try to break it. That's my goal. And the reason for that is that as much as I love Robin Williams, and I do, and always have, I'm not giving him a pass necessarily from a moral, ethical position as a teacher of ethics. I can't give him a pass. And I want to sort of, talk about this issue in relation to the depression issue. Okay? And because here's the mistake that I see that we're making, is that we sort of think that it's either mutually exclusive, or even worse, that there's sort of this linear correlation, this negative linear correlation between accepting in accepting people who have depression and what depression does and the morality of suicide. Meaning that I either have to find suicide, if I find suicide immoral, then I have to think of Robin Williams as an awful person and he's bad and he's evil and all that. Or there's some sort of negative linear correlation where the more I accept depression and understand depression and have empathy for depression, the less immoral suicide becomes, maybe even becomes amoral or even becomes a valid choice. Okay, and that these two things, have some sort of this inverse relationship. The more moral I think this is, the more I have to sort of dump on Robin Williams. And what I want to point out is that these two things can absolutely be separated completely. Okay, there is no need, but there is no linear relationship, inverse relationship between these two things at all. We can have total empathy for Robin Williams and sympathy and all the feelings that we have, and also acknowledge the pain of depression and the importance of therapy and help and what depression really does with people, and at the same time not validate suicide as an option. That we can have both of these things simultaneously. Granted, that's a very ENFP position and a very perceiver position, I admit it is. But that is the position I hold. I don't see that we have to have one or the other. Because what I think is that we want to have so much love for Robin Williams, and we want to have so much empathy for Robin Williams and empathy for those who are depressed and who are suicidal, that we feel we have to sort of make that choice of suicide a legitimate choice. That in order for me to accept your depression and your suicide and everything that's going on, I have to, somehow turn this bad choice into a good choice. I don't think so. I think you can have the two together. And the reason for that is that I don't think suicide is a valid moral choice. Okay, mainly because if suicide is to have any kind of moral substance to it, it has to be done as sacrifice, I think. Okay, it has to, the sacrificial suicide, where you are definitely ending your life, but you're ending your life because there is some belief of a greater good is coming from this, and that greater good is more important than your life, or you are blocking harm, you're keeping harm from happening. And somehow harm is being thwarted because of the sacrifice you're making. You'd actually would rather live, but the necessity of the situation is greater than that, and so you give up your life for that. I think that is sort of a moral sort of suicide, and the suicide that we usually encounter is not really that kind of suicide, because it's not being done for any kind of greater good. It's not being done to stop harm. In fact, suicides like this cause more harm. It causes nothing but harm to people. It's harm to the self. The last moments of the self are moments of misery and pain and suffering and physical suffering. There's that. There's the suffering of the family. Think of the harm that Robert Williams' children is facing, and all the pain and suffering with that. And honestly, look, and you don't even have to be a family member. The whole nation is bummed out over Robin Williams. We're all sort of wounded by it. How can an action be moral and ethical if everyone is hurt in one way or another to various degrees? Where's the good that comes out of this? Where's the greater good? Where's the greater principle? Where's the utilitarian good? There's none of that there. So I can't give Robin Williams like a moral pass that this was a legitimate choice for him to make. But how can we frame it then? Do we have to like dog him? I mean, do we have to like act as if he's a horrible person and is in hell right now? No, of course not. I think that we can accept that he had depression, and that this was a tragic choice, and that he made the wrong choice, and he made the sad choice, and he made a mistake. And he made a big mistake, but he made a mistake. And if you see it in terms of a mistake, then I think it's still acceptable to have all the love and happiness that you had and memories that we have for him, and also empathy for him and the family, and empathy for all those who have depression and suicide. It's okay to have full feelings and be non-judgmental and be open and welcoming and empathic to those who suffer from mental illness, and at the same time say this is not the right choice because it hurts others. Simple as that, and yourself. So that's it. I guess the last thing I want to mention in terms of just memory is that Aladdin is actually one of Noah's favorite movies of all time, and one of the things that we do all the time is that Robin Williams is sort of in our consciousness, very daily almost, because when I park the car on the street, when Noah and I are coming back from somewhere, and I park the car on the street, one of us, as I'm pulling into the spot, will say, thank you for choosing magic carpet. We'll do the whole thing in Aladdin when the carpet's coming in, and this is, we did it like last week. It's something that's always with us. So Robin Williams is always with me and always in my heart, and and it's been a very painful event, especially as a fellow ENFP, to sort of experience another ENFP's demise. All right, so that's it. So make your videos and talk about what you think about Robin Williams and everything that's happened and your feelings and your experiences about it. As always, come follow NFGeeks on Twitter and Tumblr, and come join the fun on the NFGeeks Facebook forum, where you could win a free MBTI typing in our typing lottery, or you can get your type done with the real MBTI through me for the cheapest price on the internet. And what's so terrible about that? So that's it, and I can't wait to see your videos.